Hello, hi everyone. Happy Friday. I hope you are all well and welcome to episode 3 of the Women's Revolutions podcast. Today we are continue the conversation we started on the last episode about default parenting. The previous episode was just me and Kelly, and we talked about what's default parenting, how it shows up. We also shared our own stories. And today we are going to continue the conversation because we felt it wasn't enough. And we didn't have Gita and Divina the last time because they were in childcare duties. So, really, really appropriate and they are joining today. They will also share some of their experiences. We will share feedback that we got from some of the women that listen to us, and we also share some of the strategies. I wouldn't say magic solutions because we don't believe there exists a magic solution, but some of the strategies that people share with us, some from research and some from own experience as well. But before we continue, I would like to invite Gita to take us through a quick exercise so we are really present and we also have a minute to stop because we usually don't have time to stop. So, Gita, to you.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so if it's safe to do so, I'm just going to invite you to either lower your gaze or close your eyes, whichever feels more comfortable. And just take a few breaths. Just take a few deep breaths in and out. Just take a moment to feel the weight of your body being supported by the seat or wherever you are in this moment, and allowing you to really anchor into this present moment. As you continue to gently breathe in and out, I'm just going to invite you to imagine a white light coming through you, through the soles of your feet, down into the earth, like roots going into the ground, burrowing deep into the earth below. And just keep breathing. And with each inhale, draw the nourishing energy from the earth. Fill your body with stability, with strength. And with each exhale, release any tension, concerns, or worries, allowing them to dissolve into the ground. Just feel the steady rhythm of your breath. Let it be a reminder to you of the natural flow of life. Allow yourself to really be here in this moment. Arrive into this space, especially if today's topic is close to your heart. Just take a moment to anchor into your heart space. Allow yourself to really feel a true sense of peace and love for yourself, for your loved ones, for humanity and the planet. And taking a last few deep breaths in this space. When you're ready, open your eyes and rejoin us. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you. And I love the birds. They join us. Amazing. Thank you, Gita. So, for us to start or to continue the conversation, I would like to um, share the concept or the idea that default parenting is not a good or a bad thing. So, it has both sides. It could be a less positive thing if you are the parent that is 100% responsible for all the duties in terms of childcare, all the house duties, it's your responsibility, and you are the bearer of all that weight. And that's where you might feel that it's a negative thing. And on the other side, on the positive thing, where I see it is that the bond that you create with your child becomes very powerful because the time you are with them, you are present to them. It's a beautiful thing as well. And I would love to hear from, maybe I will invite Divina and Gita today to start the discussion because you weren't here the last time. What do you think about it, and would you like to share some of your experiences as well?
So, yeah, I totally agree with you, Carla. There's two sides. Actually, it's multifaceted. And for me, the word that stands out is connection.
Mm,
And in my experience, I have two children. One's nearly 18 and one's 13. And during my time of being a parent, there have been times when I have been sort of more the lead parent than their father, and vice versa, depending on our circumstances and the situation. And what I would say is, it just for me, it really comes down to the opportunity to connect. And where there have been times when I've been, say, the lead parent and their father has had to like live in London or whatever the situation has been, what I noticed more than anything is the disconnection that happens. Yes, there's the load, but when we look beyond the things to do, the operational aspects, when it comes to the relationship, the relating with your child, that is what suffers, or can suffer, should I say. So the situation I'm in now, going through a divorce at the moment, and where it was very fractured for a period of time, where we are now is that actually the relationship between us all is a lot healthier. The connection between each of us is more beautiful. And there's still work to be done. And the journey we've been on to get here has had huge bumps and turns along the way. Personally, I've said this before, I have burnt out 2 or 3 times in my life. But I can, on reflection, see what my part was in this. And there's something more I'd like to say, maybe a little bit later on, about when default parenting doesn't feel healthy, why that could be.
yeah, very interesting. And I like the part when you mentioned the connection. A question for all of us. Um, do we think as parents, mother or father, that if we are not the default parent, we will lose the connection with our children?
I think it depends on how you are as a person and how you connect with them. So in my family, there's neurodiversity present. So connection can be challenging in the best of times. So what helps it is to bring consistency. Whereas perhaps for someone who's, I don't like to use these terms, but neurotypical, being able to connect and then be physically away, they can keep the connection going. I think it depends on the dynamics and the people. That's my view.
Divina, would love to hear your thoughts as well.
I have so many thoughts.
Go ahead.
I was writing some down when you were speaking, Gita. So I am the default parent. in our household. And one thing I wrote down is like there's seasons in life. So mine are young. Mine are 7, 5, and 2. So I just believe that this season in our lives is one that requires a lot from us. Whereas if they were older, it could be less. So there's also just recognizing that you're in a season of life as well. I think the other thing that I wrote down was appreciation. For some, I don't know if either Gita or Carla are going to read what somebody sent in to us, but there was something in what she said which we can read, where she said, it's just, that's just the way it is in her culture. It's just default. The women are the default parents. And even though it might make sense, there's an appreciation, I think, that the default parent is looking for from their partner. So even though it makes sense that they may do all of the labor with children in the home, you may not even want that to change, but maybe it's just an appreciation that you're looking for from your partner, and why communication is really important, I think. And maybe after she's shared that, after we share that, I can say some of the other things I was thinking about. But yeah, that's the first things I probably say. There's seasons to life, and communication is really important. And communicating how you want to be appreciated to your partner, I think, is what's really important.
Kelly, I can see you want to say something.
Oh, yeah, no, it's yeah, I think it's just such a multifaceted, like Gita said, topic,
Yeah.
and it's going to kind of look different and similar in people's life. And it was something that everyone is kind of touched on, and I think it all comes a lot down to attachment theory. And what I mean by that is, when we're born into this world, so we're all talking about children in this mix, that we need attachment. So when you're a default parent, if you're not in that kind of stress survival, then we're able not just to meet our own attachment needs, like Davina said, communicating what we need to feel appreciated, to have that closeness with somebody else. But also then we're coming from a much more nourishing place. So we're attuned not to our own needs, but we're also attuned to our children. So you could be like a default parent, but if you're feeling completely burnt out, completely just haven't got time to breathe, then to really have the quality of attachment with your children, it's unlikely it's not going to be there, because you're in survival. You're just trying to kind of keep yourself alive. So I think it's really having that attachment needs with our self-attunement. So then we can attune to our children. And like Davina beautifully said, a part of that comes, and I know everyone relational dynamics is so different, so it's not this simple, but it does really come down to that vulnerability, and that vulnerability in how we speak it. Because sometimes that can come across as angry and resentful, but it's really allowing ourselves just to have that awareness of what I am experiencing in this role and how I can communicate. And the reason why I'm going to highlight attachment, because what I have recognized when I kind of reflect back is how I have changed for these seasons, as Davina beautifully said it. And I was like just the man, my husband worked away. And then as I changed, I wanted a bit more flexibility to do the other things that I wanted to do. So that did take a transition. That transition wasn't easy. It did take a lot of vulnerability, awareness. But yeah, I'll pause there. But I think it's really being aware of our own attachment needs and our own needs that maybe are not being met.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And you talked about resentment. Resentment is a big thing, I believe, in default parenting, because when you don't communicate and you don't have that self-awareness and you are not able to communicate, you just close down, and the resentment starts to build because you just don't say it, or just keep it to yourself. And I've noticed in some of my friends and people that I work with, that resentment is there, but they can't say it. It's just, I don't know, it's the fear of the implication, it's the shame, and it can come to the cultural part as well, the shame that it's supposed to be you, it's your role, so you just don't say it.
Yeah, and just to quickly add on there, I think this is where our own just being a little bit reflective, because if we are really honest with ourselves, and honesty does take courage, but we sometimes look back and go, okay, how, and it's not to, this is never to place blame, it's just to have awareness, is to go, okay, how did I have my needs met throughout my different sections of my life? Because what tends to happen, patterns follow. So if we were used to not having our needs be attuned to as we were younger, the likelihood is that's going to follow into relationships. And rather than say, I'm not happy, I need help, it's much more familiar to kind of like push it down.
Yeah.
And come in resentment or anger, because anger gives us this illusion as well that we're in control. But actually underneath that, there's often grief, loss, sadness. And this is where I feel, and I say this from my own reflective journey, I had to come aware what was shaping my reality and the role, like Gita said earlier, the role that I was playing as well. And some of it was really healthy, and some things were patterns that needed a bit of updating.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just want to say something on this, Kelly, as you were sharing what came up for me around attachment, because of this journey this very deep journey I've been on myself in the last 18 months about my own attachment style and what's, how it shaped my reality till now, is that it's made me very conscious and aware as a parent how I parent my children and how to create a healthy attachment style in them and to promote this ability within them to understand what their own needs are and how their needs can be met. Because otherwise we're just going to, in the society, if we look at it more broadly, society, we're just going to keep creating this situation if we don't start helping or sharing what we're learning as we go on. And I'm really witnessing this in my children, and the fact that they are finding their voice, and it's through them that we are learning how to parent in a more healthy way. So yeah, just wanted to say thank you.
I found the same. Well, those are things I wrote down earlier as well, Gita. It was exactly the same things. Well, yeah, I'm just looking at what I wrote down. There were thoughts that were kind of like downloading at the time. Was that, yeah, that maybe this, I know we're all kind of the same generation, we're different ages-ish, but the same generation. But maybe I feel like if you look back at history as well, there's always a generation that find out something and then make a change. And then maybe we are in this generation finding out that, oh, right, yeah, we're not using our voices, and we're not saying what we want. And actually, we want communication styles to be like this, and we'd like our lives to be like this. And so as we're learning this and doing all this healing work, that our children now, when they come to a time when they're in relationships, they'll be going in with so much more knowledge and support from us, from what we've learned, but as long as we learn it and share it with them. I was just thinking that when my kids have their relationships, you know, I'm bringing them up to use their voice, to say what they want, to say what their needs are, and to communicate. And I would hope that that's what they then take into their relationships when they grow up. Whereas I think, at least personally, like for me, I just didn't know what it was going to be like having a baby in a relationship. Just didn't really think about that. I didn't know. Just, you know, we're together, we like each other, we want to have a baby. Yeah, sure, let's have a baby. So then we have a baby, and then life just keeps going. But you didn't really take any consideration as to what that means, what that looks like, what our lives will be like, how we feel about work and home. And that just wasn't something that I thought about. Whereas with my kids, that's a conversation that we'll be able to have. And I can teach them about saying what they want and communicating what they want, and just having that kind of just having an idea and sharing what we know, I think will really change the next generation of kids coming up. So maybe that's our part that we're playing right now, doing all of this work for us to be able to pass on to our kids.
That's fascinating. So I'm hearing two different things, right? One, and we could already jump to a few strategies for those that are listening. One is the self-awareness part, is for us to really be more self-aware and do some work and reflection about our own attachments and how those are impacting our relationship with our children and our default parenting and the way we are or might be the default parenting. That's one point. And the second one you just mentioned as well, Divina, is how we then are shaping our children. And if we are not able at the moment to 100% change our circumstances because we didn't have enough information, are we able to then teach our children so they can have a better experience as parents and as adults, as women, as men?
Yeah, I think so. I think, as Kelly mentioned before, that self-awareness piece, like, what did I bring to this? What was my part or what part am I playing in this now? I think it's a really important question. And I was thinking as well, there might be people that are like, what is attachment style? So we might want to do that next. As the next podcast, because they're probably thinking, like, I don't know what that means. They probably might not have heard that before. So we probably should talk more about it, because I know the time is flying today. We only have like a few minutes left, but yeah, there's I think we should talk about attachment styles next. But yeah, that self-awareness piece is a great question to ask yourself. Like, you know, like, what part am I playing here? And it can be like I think you did say it, Kelly, but it can be a tough question to ask yourself, because it's not something, we don't always look inward that way.
Yeah.
So it can be tough to ask yourself those questions. But yeah, like,
what am I playing? Yeah, absolutely. And just quickly, I would say, even just briefly, attachment is really, as humans, we're always trying to find safety and real connection. So sometimes then we learn to adapt how to get that. So that might be saying, I need this, I better not say that, I'll get rejected, or I won't get it. Or it might be we get quite defensive, I have to do it all myself. Because that's how we've learned to have some type of connection. So it's just how we learn how to be in relationship with ourselves, but also through relationship, we learn who we are. That can be a bit distorted. Just as a kind of summary to give a bit of context to this beautiful conversation.
That's fascinating. Actually, really good for our next topic. Gita?
I was going to say, shall I read out one of the feedback? We had several women write into us, and this one in particular was the one we said we would share. So, so this woman wrote, default parenting. Why does it happen? How does it happen? What needs to change? Being African, default parenting is just thrust upon you. There really is no option to evaluate or choose how you want to parent. We were brought up that way, but do not really question whether it's still appropriate or relevant in the world we live in. There is a lot of pressure from family members, in-laws especially, and expectations that influence us to conform to certain parenting styles or techniques. Default parenting is just what is widely accepted in our community. Mums just take the default parent role, whether they are stay-at-home mum or have careers. Even if you want to parent differently, parenting is just overwhelming. One just finds themselves taking the path of least resistance. Just easier to stick to familiar patterns. In my case, default parenting has led to several consequences, including postnatal depression, missed opportunities for connection with my older children, resentment. I'm not where I hope to be at 45. I feel like I've given up so much. I also feel like I'm drifting away from my husband as a result. What I feel needs to change, incidentally. What I feel needs to change. Incidentally, I made the decision to find a job away from home just so I could have some me time, time to reflect on the choices I have made in life and how I can make adjustments so I can be a happier and more present mum and wife. I hope to seek out information and resources on different parenting styles and techniques that can help me make better choices. I want to learn to communicate better with my children, understand their needs and then mine. I also think connecting with other parents, getting guidance from professionals such as therapists or parenting coaches can provide me with the support I need.
Mm.
And I wonder how many hearing this can connect with some or all of what has just been shared.
Yeah, that's
Amazing.
very interesting. Yeah, great share. And highlight for me, I wrote three things that really came up very, very loud is that we do not question.
Mm.
We just follow expectations. So the expectations are there, and we choose the least resistance path.
Yeah, I highlighted the same things, the societal expectations. There was so much that she said towards the end there as well, that I could pick out, but the part about whether you have a career or you stay at home, you're still the default parent, and the fact that she's actually chosen to have a job away just to have time to herself. And the fact that she said she wants to understand their needs than hers, which I actually think is where a lot of the challenges come, is because we always put everybody else first. And we've spoken about, I don't know if we have spoken about it here before, but we speak a lot about, we have to fill our own cups. It's our needs first and then theirs, because we can't give from the empty cup. But yeah, she said a lot there, and I really appreciate her sharing. So thank you for sending that in.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for.
Yeah, I've heard similar, but what I really wanted to illuminate, if I may, is when we spoke, I think it was Davina that said about, we're at a time where we have this beautiful ability to create change and to pass a different baton onto our children. And hopefully they pass better batons if they decide to have children. And we keep this, we're all part of this interconnected world. So even when we're gone, we're kind of passing something different. We're creating different ripples, and then we're creating different waves and different oceans, and different consciousness that we're all living in. And even in this, I felt really stuck when she first said, really kind of stuck in this kind of culture and environment that was already had scripted how she needed to parent and the lack of autonomy. But what really spoke to me is her resourcefulness. Even in that tightness, that something spoke to her, and she created one different choice. And by creating that different choice, give her the need of space. And from that need of space, then she was able to get curious. Actually, I have needs. My children got needs. And then from that, she's like, oh, maybe I can get help from here, here, here. And I just love that ripple effect of one new choice by just listening and attuning to something that was calling from inside of her. And I just thought that was magical as it kind of just...
Yeah, there's light, right? There's some light start to appear because of that choice. Actually, there's a different way. I want to learn it. I want to learn more about it, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No choice. It was just it was originally thought in an environment that made her feel like that, but a wiser wisdom came out. There's always a choice. I just got to find that little crack.
Yeah.
Where I can get through, and from that different choices emerge. And that's what I was kind of seeing as I was just tuning into her beautiful words. So yeah, thank you.
Can we read the other one that we got in where she'd said what she'd done to, what she's found works for her in her default parenting situation? Because she,
yeah, I will. I got it here. Actually, can I quickly, it'll be a few seconds. Someone else reached out this morning just to give her voice. And I hope she gets something from this beautiful conversation. But she said, through everything we spoke about default parenting, this is me. I find it difficult as when my partner works away, the children automatically come to me. But I find it frustrating and unfair that I'm the default parent. It should be shared. I'm not found a way of coping with it, unfortunately, and I get really touched out. And I think so many parents, I remember that touched out. Again, touched out. I remember that so well. Oh my goodness, it's like going back in time.
Yeah. We hear you. We hear you.
Absolutely.
You are not alone. You are not alone, for sure. We hear you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then when she wanted me to say a name because she felt this is so important and conversations she regularly has. So shout out to Emma Morgan. And what she said, we have a default parenting. We have a lot of discussions about this in our house. We aim to work as a team, but it requires honesty and communication. It's not easy to find a balance, but it can be achieved sometimes. I think the trick is for everyone in the family to have their own space, follow their own hobbies and interests, but also do things together as a couple and as a family. Understanding when it's time to give each other space too, so that human comes back in. She goes, communication is something, it's so important. When her husband is working away, she goes, I make me time, even if there's small moments. So she'll take a candlelit bath, she'll walk the dog, she'll watch something in order to make her feel better, which in turn makes me more patient with the kids. So she's finding things that regulate herself, so then she can be more with the kids. And she also has received some help from family when she can as well, to have some couple time. So that's how they found their way. But communication's coming through all the time, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And then I think the part I wanted to highlight was just that me time that she's found. And she's found that in things that she already could do, like walking the dog, like things that you already do, trying to make that really intentional. I think that really helps as well, whether it is having that cup of tea, because normally you let it go cold because you're doing X, Y, Z, having an intentional time to sit down with it, just trying to find those bits of me time.
Yeah. And just even for myself, like what we found, obviously we spoke about the inner self, and even our relationship we're receiving, how we ask for help, how we receive help. It's something to sometimes hold space for too. But just little regular things, So I have a girl and boy, and I was like, I had all these kind of unmet needs, and I needed more time and needed more space. And so we invested in a cleaner. So I have a cleaner twice a fortnight, because then that takes that I always see like a rucksack with this weight. Okay, that takes a big weight off. So that creates a little bit more time. It creates a little bit more space. And you can not spend in other places and invest what is more important. And even just little things with my husband, he shares a ward with my son, I share with my daughter. So washing, I do on my daughter's clothes, he does my son's clothes. If we go away, he does my son, I do my daughter. It just, so it's not this kind of weight with cooking. I always have to do it. Now it's more shared. My husband is willing to cook. And then we just work with a team. You do this night, I'll do the next night. So just even sometimes little things like that, I find just go a long way. It just lightens the rucksack that sometimes we feel we're carrying.
Yeah, and I love that. I did As you know, my personal experience is a bit different because I'm a single mom. So I am the default parent by default, and I don't have a partner to, well, I have a partner now, but I didn't have. Daniel now is 19, so he doesn't need me for those things anymore. But when Daniel was growing, I didn't have a partner to share the parenting. But I did a lot of research, and some of the things that I've read that aligns with what you just shared, Kelly, is about working as a team. And I read something very interesting as a recommendation, which is um, to write down everything that you do as the default parent, all the tasks, those tiny, right? That sometimes we don't even realize. We just do it again by default, like the cleaning, the kitchen, the laundering, prepare the kids' meals, the play dates. That we do all create just a list of everything that you do, and then the second part is communicate with your husband, with your partner. Just one really honest, authentic, kind conversation, and ask for help, because it won't happen everything at the same time. And the 50-50, I don't think sometimes it's not realistic as well. But even if it starts small, one or two things, something that works for the relationship and for the family dynamics, I think it's a great way to start the journey.
I think so too.
Something that's come up for me is around touching on communication, but it's around having shared standards and agreements. But you need both people, or whoever's involved, if you do it as a family, need to be on board and willing participants of this.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work. So I know that through my marriage, it was always very difficult for a number of reasons. And for the last sort of 10 years, we've mainly lived apart anyway. So the parenting has been very different. And I was more the default parent. Now with divorce, the dynamics have changed again. And with the children, I think there's this idea that as children get older, they don't need you as much. My experience is the need changes.
Absolutely.
So, for example, the last 3 or 4 months, I've been holding space, quite intense space, for my son for a particular reason. And it's fine. It was agreed. It was understood. We all talked about it, and it was understood that I was the better placed parent to do this. Whereas I know that if it had been during my marriage, we would not have had that conversation, and resentment would have built. But because our dynamic is different now, it's like we have to have these conversations now. This transparency, this openness needs to happen. It doesn't always mean we agree. It doesn't always mean that we have a beautiful conversation, but the conversations happen now. And it comes from that part, like touching what Kelly was saying about the parts of us that show up. We are now showing up more as the wiser self than the part of us that was being triggered, and say maybe our inner teen or inner child was coming out and showing up with anger or defense. Because we've been working through this, it's like when we have to have these conversations now, we really center ourselves and show up as our wiser selves, and it's a child-focused conversation rather than a me focus, because I've got me now. Don't need anyone else to have me. I've got me, and I have a beautiful sisterhood, yourselves included, who have my back, and I can fill my cup. So I don't look to the relationship in terms of partner for that anymore. That's been my biggest sort of learning through this, and through that I'm able to be a much more present and present parent, you know, like just it's really changed things. Now, that's not to say that that's easy to do, and it's not something that, you know, it's a journey. It takes time. But where it began was with me. It's when I kept sort of looking outside of myself, and this does happen, you know, he needs to change, or she needs to change, or they.
Yeah.
And the frustration builds, and you just sort of like, oh my God, you know, why is it always down to me? That was where I lived. Why, you know, oh, woe is me, from that victim space of why is it always me? Why can't someone else take the mental load? Forget the washing and everything else. It's all the thinking for our children. But since that's changed, and there's a lot more respect and understanding, and this acknowledgement and recognition of our roles and what our strengths are, what is it that I can bring to this family dynamic that is beneficial to us all, rather than you know, why can't you do that? Well, what can you bring? You're great at this. You bring this. I'll bring this, and between us all, we'll make the whole. But as I say, it's not something that can be done overnight, and it starts with, as we said at the beginning, with self-awareness and real honesty and vulnerability to go there.
I'd add what you mentioned there about your sisterhood. I think that's important too, so that you know that you're not alone. If you can have that, build that, be part of that, or find a community. But doing that inner work in a sisterhood,
yeah,
is a great start.
That support structure is what's really been the thing that's helped me at times when it's been desperately painful and difficult. You know, like you can lean into your sisterhood and be witnessed, not fixed, just witnessed,
Yeah.
held.
Yeah, I think that's the sisterhood bit, of the lean in, that support really creates that safety to be vulnerable. Because without that safety, then it can feel extremely fearful, because you have nowhere to, you feel like you have nowhere to land. And you can easily get caught in patterns of thought, which often are survival patterns of thought that are coming from anxiety or fear. So when you have that holding, that holding can just really allow you to bring you back into a place of much more connection and safety, and still being able to hold the uncomfortability of the emotions that just need to kind of move through. So I completely echo that, and that is really, again, is really looking at our relationship, which is something I've had to look at and continue to look at, is a kind of our relationship with vulnerability and our relationship of receiving.
Yeah. Oh, that's a big one, isn't it? Receiving.
Yeah.
Woo, it is.
We are very good at giving, but not usually receiving.
Oh, well, that's all changing, isn't it?
Yeah, and if you think of it, giving, we feel a sense of control. You know,
Yeah.
when we're receiving, there is a vulnerability. It feels boundless. So it's asking us to really surrender, because we don't even know what we're going to fall into. So yeah, and receiving is in all areas of life as well. And I'm not even going to go there right now.
That's another episode.
Another podcast.
Yeah.
Another chapter.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, and we've already gone over. We're already 15 minutes over.
Yeah, but yeah, it's true. But this is such an important conversation, and there's so much to say about this that we could do, and we might do at the later stage other episodes around it, because there's so much to it. There's no simple or magic answer, because as we said at the beginning, this is multifaceted. The family dynamics are so different. We are individuals. We are so different as well. All of us are unique. And there are so many different options on how the dynamics of a family can work. And we just saw in our 4 examples, how different we all are in terms how the family dynamics worked and have evolved and our journeys. So there's no the truth is there's no magical solution. But I would say for me, from all the conversations, there's a couple of things that really come out as important. And one of them is it starts within, with us, with ourselves. It's not changing the other person.
Mm.
And it's like, and I love Gita, Esther Perel, and I've heard something that she recently said is like relationships are like a dance and like an eight, the infinite and the eight symbol. It's like a dance between two or more parties. In this case, it's a family dynamics. And wherever we do, our actions, our behaviors, our way of being reflects as well on the other side and how they will be, how they will become, how they will respond to you. And there's always our own responsibility in the sense that we are the creators as well of wherever we have around us. And in this default parenting family dynamics, we have part of it. We are responsible. So yeah, let's look inside. Self-awareness is very important. We mentioned that. Really be self-aware of our attachments, and maybe this is the next topic, the attachments we have, our experiences, our being. And it's scary sometimes, but it's an amazing journey. We all have been through that journey, and it's an amazing journey. And also the support, as we just said, all the support. Don't be alone. Don't be ashamed to share with someone that you believe you can trust. Or if you don't know anyone, we're here. We're here for you. If you need, reach out to us because it's very important to have that support. And it's not to give you the solutions, but just to be there for you when you need. Someone that is there for you to listen. Sometimes that it's everything that we need. It's just someone to listen to us, not to fix anything, as we said, but just to be there. And that's very important. So we are not alone. We are all here in a journey to become better parents, better human beings, better colleagues, better friends, better selves.
Great way to end. So
And
maybe the next topic is going to be attachment style then, maybe. It feels like a good one to follow on from.
Agreed.
It will be
Agreed.
new for a lot of people as well.
So shall we? It's decided live that the next topic is attachment styles.
Yeah. Maybe
So it's a
attachment style / nervous system, and we can talk about how they work together.
Right. How they relate, interrelate, yeah.
Mm.
So Friday the 3rd of May, 1 p.m. back here.
Yeah.
Yes, and subscribe the channel so you are always up to date what we are up to and all the episodes as well.
Mm-hmm. And you can write into us as well.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say a big shout out to everyone who shared their experiences. It's just so beautiful to have your voice and bring a different level of richness to this conversation. So I just wanted to say a big shout out to everyone that shared their real raw experiences with us.
Really appreciate you all. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, and if you haven't shared and you still want to share with us, please do. Text us, email us. We would love to hear your stories as well. Thank you, everyone, and see you in 2 weeks. Have a great weekend.
Wish you a lovely weekend. Take care. Bye.